My fiancée mocked my dead father's gift. During rehearsal dinner, so I canceled the wedding and let her face the guests she tried to impress. I'm a 29-year-old guy, and this story still doesn't feel real to me. Even as I sit here typing it out, my chest tightens the same way it did that night. My dad passed away 5 years ago, but before he died, he gave me something I never stopped carrying: a gold ring. It was simple, unpolished, the kind of thing that wouldn't catch your eye unless you knew the story behind it. It had belonged to my grandfather before him, passed from one generation of men who believed that what mattered wasn't how shiny something looked, but what it meant. When I met Lily, I thought I'd finally found someone who understood that kind of meaning. She was beautiful, driven, and so full of life that she could make any dull room feel alive. When I proposed, I didn't go to a jeweler. I pulled out my dad's ring, the one he'd worn until the day he couldn't lift his hand anymore, and I told her what it meant to me. She gasped, covered her mouth, and said, That's beautiful." I swear I saw tears in her eyes when she said yes. For a while, I thought she meant it. But a few months later, the comments started. Tiny at first, disguised as jokes. Maybe we should polish it up a little. It's sweet, but it's not really my style. I love vintage, just maybe not this vintage. Each word stung more than I wanted to admit. I laughed them off because I wanted to believe she was just nervous or self-conscious. I told myself it didn't matter, that she was the person my dad would have wanted me to marry. But sometimes when I caught her scrolling through designer ring catalogs or watching proposal reaction videos, I felt something inside me shift. Something small, but sharp enough to draw blood. And that, I think, was the first crack. I thought things would settle once the wedding planning started, but instead, it was like watching my life slowly get swallowed by Lily's version of perfect. She had Pinterest boards, vendor lists, and spreadsheets before I'd even wrapped my head around the date. I tried to be supportive, I really did, but every decision she made pulled us further from what I imagined marriage to be. She wanted a luxury vineyard outside the city. I wanted something small, maybe even at my family's old farm, the place where my parents got married. It's too rustic, she'd said, wrinkling her nose. This is our once-in-a-lifetime event, babe. It has to look like it. At first I laughed. She was passionate. That's what I loved about her. But then she started talking about sponsorships, how we could collab with a few brands for exposure, maybe get a videographer to make it look cinematic for social media. I remember sitting there nodding while she talked, my stomach quietly turning. My mom called one night. She'd always been gentle, the kind of woman who never told you what to do, just helped you see it. "Sweetheart," she said softly, "I know you love her, but make sure she loves you more than the wedding." I brushed it off. "She's just excited, Mom. Everyone wants their day to be special." "I understand," she said after a pause, "but special doesn't have to mean expensive." After that call, I walked into our apartment to find Lily holding fabric samples up to the light, frowning at shades of white that all looked the same to me. She looked up and smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "You'll handle the venue deposit, right?" she asked casually. "Yeah," I said quietly, though the word felt heavier than I wanted to admit. It was only the beginning, but deep down, I knew I was funding a dream that didn't belong to me. The comments started as whispers disguised as laughter. Lily's friends would sit around our living room drinking wine, flipping through magazines and planning bachelorette outfits. At first, I didn't pay much attention. But one night, I caught a few words that burned. "Is that the ring?" one of them said, pointing. Lily giggled. "Yeah, it's his dad's old one." "Sentimental, right?" Another chimed in. "Oh my God, it's like so vintage it's prehistoric." They all laughed, and Lily didn't stop them. She didn't say, "Hey, it's special to him," or even try to change the subject. She just smiled and poured more wine. I remember standing in the hallway, half hidden, feeling my chest tighten. My dad's face flashed in my mind. His rough hands, the way he'd held that ring like it was something sacred when he gave it to me. I wanted to walk in and defend it, but part of me thought maybe I was overreacting. Maybe they were just joking. Later that night, when it was just us, I tried to bring it up. "Lily, I said quietly. "The ring means a lot to me. I don't like hearing people make fun of it." She sighed, rolling her eyes like I was being dramatic. "Babe, they weren't serious. You know how girls talk. Don't be so sensitive." "It's not about sensitivity," I said, struggling to stay calm. "It's about respect." "Well," she muttered, scrolling through her phone, "maybe you should relax a little. You act like that ring is some holy relic." I went silent after that. I didn't have the words to explain that it was holy to me, at least in the way love and memory are sacred. I sat beside her on the couch while she scrolled through jewelry ads, pretending not to notice. The sound of her phone clicking filled the room, and right then, for the first time, I wondered if she loved me, or the version of me that looked good on her Instagram feed. The closer the wedding got, the more I felt like a background character in my own story. Every day brought a new, urgent decision. Tablecloth shades, imported flowers, a custom arch flown in from Italy. I wanted to be excited, but it all felt like noise drowning out what marriage was supposed to mean. Lily was changing. Or maybe she was just becoming who she'd always been. Her phone was always in her hand, snapping photos, recording stories, talking about aesthetic moments. I'd catch her rehearsing smiles in the mirror, practicing how to hold her champagne glass for the photographer. I remember one night, we were going over the budget. I'd already put down payments for the venue and catering. "Do we really need to spend another $5,000 on floral walls?" I asked carefully. She looked up, almost offended. "You can't put a price on beauty, babe. People will remember this forever." "Shouldn't they remember us, not the decor?" I said. That earned me a cold glare. "You're ruining the vibe," she muttered. The words stuck. Ruining the vibe. Like my hesitation to waste money on appearances made me the problem. I thought about my parents' wedding. How my dad had built the arch from old barnwood and my mom had sewn her own dress. They'd been broke, but they were happy. A few nights later, my best man Derek dropped by. He was the kind of friend who saw things before I did. He looked around at the boxes of decor stacked in the corner and said, "Man, this doesn't look like your wedding. It looks like hers." I forced a laugh. "Yeah, well, she's got the vision." He raised an eyebrow. "You sure she sees you in it?" I brushed him off, but when Lily called me later that night, stressing over matching napkin ribbons, his words echoed in my head. For the first time, I felt something I hadn't since my dad's funeral. That quiet, sinking sense that I was losing something I'd never get back. The rehearsal dinner was supposed to be the calm before the storm, a moment to breathe before the chaos of the wedding day. I remember driving there with my mom, both of us dressed neatly, a little nervous but excited. My dad would have loved this night. He always said family gatherings were where love felt most real. When we arrived, the restaurant was stunning. Lily's choice, of course. Crystal chandeliers, gold-trimmed plates, and a floral centerpiece that looked like it cost more than my first car. Her friends were already taking selfies at the table, giggling, tagging the location on social media. It felt less like a rehearsal dinner and more like a press event. My mom, sweet as ever, brought a framed photo of my dad. It was a simple picture. Him laughing, his hand on my shoulder the day I graduated college. She placed it on a side table near the front. A quiet tribute. I caught Lily's eyes flick toward it, her expression tightening for just a second before she plastered on a smile. "That's thoughtful," she said, her tone flat. As the evening went on, the difference between our worlds became painfully clear. My family told old stories, laughed over childhood memories, kept things humble and warm. Her side, it was all business talk, designer mentions, and brand collabs. Every time I tried to bridge the gap, it felt like the two sides of the table were speaking different languages. At one point, her friend Bryce leaned over and said, "Man, you really scored, huh? She's gonna look incredible tomorrow." I smiled politely, but when I glanced at Lily, she was busy adjusting her hair for yet another photo. Toward the end of dinner, I caught my mom looking at me, her eyes soft but worried. "You okay, sweetheart?" She whispered. "Yeah," I lied, forcing a smile. "Just tired." But deep down, something in me was already breaking. I could feel a storm building, quiet but dangerous. I just didn't know it would hit that very night. It happened fast, so fast that sometimes I wonder if I imagined it. The air was warm, candles flickering across the table, soft music playing in the background. For a brief second, everything felt still. Then one of Lily's influencer friends, Tara, I think, pointed at my hand and said, "Oh my God, that's the famous hand-me-down ring, right?" Lily laughed before I could even open my mouth. "Yeah," she said, her voice light but sharp. "He proposed with his dad's old ring. Isn't that, I don't know, sentimental?" The way she said it, drawn out, mocking, sent a wave of heat through my chest. Her friends laughed. Real laughter, not the polite kind. One even said, "Wow, you're practically marrying into a thrift store romance." The whole table chuckled, except my mom. I saw her face pale, her hands trembling slightly as she reached for her water glass. My throat went dry. My father's photo sat just a few feet away, his smile frozen in time. For a split second, it felt like he was watching this unfold, silent and disappointed. "Lily," I said softly, trying to keep my voice steady, "that's not funny." She looked at me like I'd embarrassed her. "Relax, babe. It's just a joke. Don't make it weird." The table went quiet. Her friends looked uncomfortable now, realizing they'd gone too far. But Lily didn't seem to notice or care. She lifted her wine glass, smirked, and added, "Anyway, maybe after the wedding we can get something real made. Something that actually fits me." My mother's eyes filled with tears. My chest felt like it was collapsing. I couldn't hear the clinking glasses or murmured apologies, just the sound of my pulse hammering in my ears. I stood up slowly. The chair scraped against the floor, the sound sharp enough to make everyone look up. "Excuse me," I said quietly. My voice didn't shake. I didn't yell. I just walked out, past the table, past my father's picture, and into the cold night air. Outside, I could still hear faint laughter echoing behind me. That was the moment I realized I couldn't marry her. Not after that. The night air hit me like a slap. I remember standing outside the restaurant, staring at the reflection of the glowing chandeliers in the glass door, listening to muffled laughter leak through. My body felt numb, but my mind was racing. I wasn't angry yet, just hollow. I didn't even bother going back inside. I pulled out my car keys, got in, and drove. The city lights blurred through my windshield, my heart pounding so hard it drowned out the sound of the engine. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Lily, her bridesmaids, her mom. I let it ring. Then came the texts. Lily. "Where are you?" Lily. "Seriously? You're being dramatic." Her mom. "You need to come back and apologize. You embarrassed her. Apologize." For what? For defending my father's memory? For refusing to laugh while she tore down the one thing that still connected me to him? I kept driving until the city disappeared behind me. 2 hours later, I found myself at my dad's old cabin by the lake, a place I hadn't visited in years. It was quiet there, the kind of quiet that forces you to face yourself. I sat on the dock with my feet in the water, the ring clutched in my fist. The gold caught the moonlight, faint and steady, like it was reminding me of who I was before all this chaos. My father used to say, "Respect doesn't come from money, son. It comes from meaning." I could hear his voice so clearly it made my throat ache. I stayed there until sunrise, watching the water turn silver, then gold. My phone lay on the dock beside me, still buzzing, still lighting up with her name. I finally turned it off. For the first time in years, I felt completely alone. But there was peace in that loneliness, like I'd stepped out of a fog I hadn't even known I was in. And as the sun climbed higher, I knew exactly what I had to do next. By the time morning rolled around, I'd made my decision. I wasn't going to let her twist the story or drag me back into her performance. I sat on the cabin porch with a mug of coffee, staring out at the lake, my dad's ring heavy on my finger. My hands were shaking, but my mind felt clear for the first time in months. I drove back to town around noon, stopped by the wedding planner's office, and said 6 words I never thought I'd say. "The wedding is officially canceled. I'm done." Her eyes went wide. "Wait, what? Tomorrow's the—" "I know," I cut in. "Tell everyone. No ceremony, no reception, nothing. Before she could argue, I walked out. On the way to my car, I opened my phone for the first time since the night before. Over 50 missed calls. Dozens of messages from Lily, her mother, her friends. The tone shifted from concern to rage to desperation. Lily. You embarrassed me. Lily. If you don't fix this, I'll never forgive you. Lily. You're ruining both our lives over a joke. That word again. Joke. I opened Facebook, took a deep breath and typed out a post. The wedding is off. I deserve respect, not performance. Love should never humiliate you to entertain others. Then I turned my phone off again. By the time evening came, the story was already spreading. Some people texted to say they supported me. Others wanted the gossip. Lily's side tried to spin it, saying I got cold feet, that I was emotionally unstable. But my friends, and especially my mom, quietly set the record straight. They told the truth about the ring, the laughter, and the disrespect. That night I sat on the edge of my bed completely drained, staring at the silence around me. The apartment was half filled with wedding decor that now felt like a museum of bad decisions. And even though I knew I did the right thing, I also knew the fallout had only just begun. The morning after my post, my phone exploded. I didn't check it at first. I was half afraid, half numb, but eventually curiosity won. Dozens of texts, hundreds of notifications. The story had spread like wildfire. People wanted to know why, and because I hadn't deleted my post, speculation ran wild. By noon, Lily's mom called. Her voice was tight, brittle. Do you have any idea what you've done? Guests are already arriving at the hotel. You're humiliating our family. Your daughter humiliated mine, I said quietly, meaning my father's. And she did it in front of everyone. She started to shout, but I hung up before she could finish. Later, Derek texted. Bro, she's still going through with it. I blinked. What do you mean? The wedding. She told people you're just taking space. She's still in the suite getting her hair done. It sounded insane, but part of me wasn't surprised. The image had always mattered more to her than the truth. That afternoon, my mom called, her tone calm but heavy. She went ahead with it, sweetheart. Guests showed up to the venue. No groom, no explanation. People started whispering. Through her voice, I could almost picture it. The lavish hall filled with confusion, the empty altar, the fake smiles crumbling. Lily probably tried to play it off, telling people I'd be there soon. But eventually, reality must have sunk in. My mom said guests began leaving, quietly at first, then in groups. By evening, Derek sent me a photo someone had posted on Instagram. Lily, standing alone by the floral arch, makeup smudged, champagne glass in hand, the caption reading, "Tragic Day." I stared at it for a long time. No anger, no pity, just silence. The kind my father used to keep when words couldn't fix something. And even though I knew I'd done the right thing, a small part of me still wondered how love could rot that quickly, and why I hadn't seen it sooner. 2 days later, I woke up to chaos. My phone was vibrating non-stop, my name trending in local posts, and my inbox full of links. Someone had leaked the video from the rehearsal dinner, the exact moment Lily mocked my dad's ring. It was all there, her laugh, her tone, the uncomfortable silence that followed, and my mother's tearful face in the background. The clip spread like wildfire across social media. Within hours, it was everywhere. Reddit threads, TikTok stitches, reaction videos. People were furious on my behalf. Comments poured in. He did the right thing walking out. She mocked a dead man's memory? Unreal. That ring had more value than her whole personality. Lily tried to do damage control. She posted a long-captioned photo of herself crying in her wedding dress, claiming the video was taken out of context and that humor is misunderstood when emotions run high. But no one bought it. Screenshots from her friends' private stories started surfacing too. Jokes they'd made about upgrading the ring after the wedding. The internet tore them apart. Her sponsorship deals vanished almost overnight. The brands she'd tagged in her posts quietly unfollowed her. Influencer friends deleted old photos with her. I stayed silent. I didn't post, didn't comment, didn't say a word. I didn't need to. The world had already seen the truth. She called me dozens of times. The messages shifted from anger to pleading. Lily, please, I didn't mean it like that. Lily, you know how I get when I'm nervous. Lily, can we just talk? Please, I read them all, then deleted them, one by one. For years, I'd let people talk over me, make jokes at my expense, and call it love. But now, watching the same people who once laughed at me fall silent, I finally understood something my dad used to say. The truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs to stand. And for the first time, it was standing tall, on its own. A week later, I drove out to the cemetery. The world had already moved on from the drama, but I hadn't. The headlines, the messages, even the praise. It all felt hollow. What I really wanted was to talk to my dad. The sky was gray that morning, the kind of soft overcast he used to call thinking weather. I parked the car, walked the familiar gravel path, and found his headstone under the old oak tree. The grass around it was freshly trimmed. The air smelled like rain and cut earth. I sat down, pulled the gold ring off my finger, and held it tight in my palm. "Hey, Dad," I said quietly. My voice cracked a little. "I think I finally did something you'd be proud of." For a long time, I just sat there. The breeze brushed against my face, and I could almost hear him again. That calm, steady voice saying, "Respect isn't something you demand, son. It's something you protect." I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. The letter I'd written that night at the cabin. It wasn't long, just a page of everything I wished I'd said sooner. I told him how much I missed him, how the ring had reminded me who I was when I almost forgot. I told him I finally walked away from someone who didn't see the value in the things that built me. When I finished reading it aloud, I placed the letter under a small stone beside his grave and slipped the ring back onto my finger. The metal felt warm this time, not heavy, not painful, just right. Before I left, I whispered, "I kept your promise alive." As I walked back to the car, the clouds started to break. A faint bit of sunlight spilled through, touching the lake across the road, the same lake where we used to fish in silence. And for the first time since the rehearsal dinner, I didn't feel broken. I just felt steady, like the ring, like him. Months have passed since that night, and life feels quieter now, simpler, cleaner, and finally my own. I moved to a smaller city, closer to the kind of peace my dad always loved. My mornings start with black coffee on the porch instead of constant notifications and fake smiles. There's no wedding checklist pinned to the fridge, no brand partnerships, no pretending. Just silence, and for the first time it feels good. People still ask sometimes. Old coworkers, distant relatives, what really happened? I tell them the truth, but not the gossip version, the version that matters. I say, I learned that love isn't about showing the world how perfect it looks. It's about protecting the parts of it no one sees. That usually ends the conversation. Lily reached out once more. Just once. It was a long message, full of apologies and reflections. She said she'd lost everything and hoped I'd find it in my heart to forgive her. I read it slowly, and I did forgive her, but not for her sake. For mine. Because I didn't want to carry her cruelty like another ring around my heart. I replied with one line. "I wish you peace, Lily. Take care of yourself." Then I blocked her number for good. Therapy helped too. My counselor said something that stuck. Sometimes closure isn't a conversation. It's the decision to stop reopening the wound. That line became my new compass. I started spending weekends with my mom, helping her fix the old porch swing, visiting my dad's grave every Sunday. The ring still sits on my finger, not as a reminder of pain, but as proof that I kept his values alive. I'm not bitter anymore, just grateful to have learned what real love should feel like, and what it should never demand. And whenever I catch my reflection in the window, the gold glinting in the light, I smile quietly to myself and whisper, "You were right, Dad." Then I go back to living, not for show, not for her, but for the peace I fought to earn.